This
Okay,
conference
so
will now be
this
recorded.
is the March
Okay,
11th.
I think we're good now.
Okay, this is the March 11th meeting of the Arlington Senior Democrats, and it's my pleasure to introduce Shannon Taylor. Take it away,
Okay, Mr.
Shannon.
Platt. Good afternoon, Arlington Democrats. I'm not even going to say, Arlington seniors, because we're just all good Democrats in the room right now. And age is nothing but a number, as we like to say. So it is a real treat to be with you all here this afternoon. I know that I saw that Delegate Hope has a PowerPoint presentation that he's going to be telling about all the good work that they've been doing in the General Assembly. And we certainly have been appreciating the hard work that our Democratic legislators have been doing. So without further ado, let's talk about what we don't want to talk about, which is the horrible things that are coming out of DC. Whether it's, it was day by day, moment by moment. And what we know right now is that our current Attorney General, Jason Miyares, is either taking no action, means he's letting Musk and Trump do whatever they want to, or he is taking certain actions to bolster what Musk and Trump are doing. But the result is the same. Whether inaction or action, Virginians are getting hurt. And I believe that to be a violation of the duties and responsibilities of an attorney general. I believe an AG is supposed to all of the constituents, regardless if they voted for you or not. So, Arlington Dems, I am Shannon Taylor. I'm the Commonwealth Attorney for Henrico County, and I do want to be your next Virginia Attorney General. So, we have, and the importance of that is because we have a Republican incumbent. So, we must have the best Democrat to defeat Miyares in the fall. So, let me tell you why, Arlington Dems. I tell you that Shannon Taylor is that person for you. So, I've been practicing law almost 30 years, and I've been the elected Commonwealth's attorney in Henrico County since 2012. And for those of you who may remember, back in 2011, we had a majority leader in Congress, right, in the House, whose name was Eric Cantor. And Eric Cantor resided in Henrico County. So that should tell you how red Henrico County was in 2011. But I won that first election, and I have won 3 contested elections since then, every time going up against a Republican opponent. And Arlington, while you have been benefiting of being this beautiful blue city, Henrico has been trending from red to blue. And it wasn't until 2023 that we got our majority, a Democratic majority in the Board of Supervisors and the school board. And that is important because I like to say that that proves I've got this electability factor. So, being the elected Commonwealth attorney, I also have been able to talk about public safety policies. So, we have been, prosecuting those people who need to be held accountable. We are prosecuting the violent crimes. We are taking the illegal guns off the street. And we are also offering what I call compassionate approaches for people who are being impacted by substance use disorder, mental and behavioral health issues, or just socioeconomic factors. In Henrico, we have been giving people that second chance, those resources to get people back into a healthy track, healthy lifestyle. And then, of course, because I've been practicing law for almost 30 years, I personally have been handling thousands of cases. And that means I've been in court, I've been in the trenches and been fighting the fight. And of note, Arlington seniors, we personally handled the Klansman who drove his truck through the Black Lives Matter march in my county back in 2020. And more recently, I was appointed the special prosecutor to handle one of the white supremacists, their case, who, when they were marching on the lawn at the University of Virginia back in August 2017. I handled that case as well. And of course, on the date of the Dobbs decision, I got on the national stage to say that I would never prosecute a woman for making a private reproductive health choice, and I would never prosecute a doctor engaging in that very private matter. And I think that that's important. I'm going to give a little footnote here to my speech because we just recently saw that that Trump is withdrawing this current case that is before the United Supreme Court that was challenging, I believe it was Iowa's law. And that is important to know because that was a law that's in place that is criminalizing women for making those choices. And better yet, it was a law criminalizing the doctors who were working with those women. So we know that this is something that's coming down the pike for this administration. So something else I want to highlight for you all today, because not only have I been, talking like with my general pitch about holding people accountable, I think what's important for you all to know is that I want to bring the work that I've been doing in Henrico County, which is protecting seniors. We are one of the only, I say this, Commonwealth attorneys that have attorneys with expertise in handling elder abuse cases. And that is because when we're talking about doing the investigation of the physical abuse that is happening to our loved ones, we have to have investigators who are trained to know what to look for. So whether or not someone has been harmed in their own home, whether or not they have been harmed in a nursing home, when those calls come in, we have to make sure we know what to look for. And I have those people in my office, and that is something that I want to bring to the Attorney General's office. So Arlington, not only do I feel like I've got that breadth of experience, that I have that electability experience, but also one last thing that's really important, and that's called executive experience. So I've been able to run one of the larger offices in the Commonwealth since 2012, which means boss. And not only been a boss, I've been able to be, a manager of people. I've been able to foster a positive work environment in my office. And I believe that if you're going to be the head of one of the larger law firms in the Commonwealth, that you should have that skill set because there are good public servants in the AG's office who deserve to have a good leader and somebody who's going to boost the morale in that office, which I can tell you all right now is not very good. So, Arlington seniors, I have enjoyed being able to make my pitch for why I believe Shannon Taylor is going to be your best Democratic candidate to defeat Miares in the fall. And I don't know, Ms. Platt, if we get to ask any questions or not.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Great.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
One question I had is on Friday, the Trump administration arrested a Palestinian student leader at Columbia University. What are your feelings on that sort of situation vis-a-vis free speech?
Wow. Talk about abuse of power, right? I mean, this is an executive order. And again, this is what we're seeing, another fear tactic by this administration. It's all, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to punish you here. And what he has done recently is if he finds out that you were speaking on behalf of, this conflict, and if you weren't on his side, then he's going to come arrest you. So whether it's January 6th or these young students who were expressing their First Amendment right to speak, this is all about fear tactics. And what I think is even more offensive, Arlington, is the fact that that young man, for however that we were feeling about, his expressing his First Amendment right, which he's allowed to do, he was a lawful citizen. And this president is using his power to say that he no longer has that ability. And without any due process, has taken away the proper identification of this young man, sending him to Louisiana, which, by the way, is completely intentional, knowing this will be challenged, knowing that because Trump can't figure out which federal judge he's appointed that he can bully or not bully, they have placed that matter in Louisiana, even though we know that this young man's lawyers they have the ability to do the venue, up in New York. But again, this is why we need to have a strong AG. This is why we need to let the administration know that we are going to be pushing back and protecting Virginians, and we are not going to allow him to use his bully pulpit to hurt Virginians.
Any other questions now?
Okay, well, no other questions from the audience. Thank you for taking the time to visit with us. And again, you're on the ballot for the primary in June.
Yes, sir. And I would love to, and if this format didn't work out and there's some other senior events that you all would like to invite me and we can do some stuff in person, I would love that opportunity.
Okay. Well, thank you once again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Chase.
All right. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce Patrick Hope, who is our delegate from the first district of Virginia, the first and foremost district. Yes, we have one person online, but you'll pick up through my
I should stand here.
unfortunately, so that you can still sit here a little bit if you want. And yeah. Okay. You're all set.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's good. Let's stay over here just as a courtesy to those that are on the phone. I want to give you a brief summary of what happened during the legislative session. I hope those on the line can see the PowerPoint. And so this is the same PowerPoint. I had a town hall that I did about 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago, I think it was. Days go by really fast. We had about 250 people that came to talk a little bit about the session, but also to talk a little bit about federal employees. Very sad stories, obviously, people that devote their entire careers to be in public service. I mean, I know that what I do is public service, but what our federal employees, they're also public servants too. And so I want to talk about ways that we can help them as well during the state legislature. So as we get to the slides, I'll show you some tangible ways that we can help support our federal workforce. So let me just go briefly through sort of what I want to cover today. We just completed the 46-day session. We're constitutionally required to go into session the second Wednesday of January. And so our long session is 60 days. The short session is the second session of the 2-year cycle is 46 days. The reason why it's shorter is because in the first year of the 2-year biennium, we pass a 2-year budget. And so we really don't we make a few little changes to the budget in the short session, but we're limited in the number of bills that we can bring in the second year, so it's allowed to be a 46-day session. I'll talk a little bit about this, probably got the most offense that we've done, given that we have divided government. We passed 3 constitutional amendments, and I'll talk a little bit about that process of getting it through. I'll go through the highlights of the budget, some major legislation that we passed. All the bills that we passed are now sitting on the governor's desk. And of course, it's the governor's prerogative to sign bills. He can amend bills or he can veto bills. And this governor has not shown any shyness about vetoing bills. And so I expect he will veto a ton. He vetoed over 200 bills, which is a record. I think that's what he's going to be known for, is more of an obstructionist than anything else. Because if you think about it, even though it's divided government, we've had divided government in Virginia for years, for decades. I served under Governor McDonnell. We had divided government. I served under Terry McAuliffe. We had divided government. Ralph Northam. We had divided government. No governor found their way to break a record that Governor Youngkin has under divided government to veto some of those. Steve?
What kind of amendment?
Anything related has to be germane to the legislation, but he can add an amendment on the budget. He can do line amendments. He can strike things out. He can add things, but it has to be germane.
Then that doesn't have to go back.
So it absolutely does. So the process is we'll go back into session April the 2nd to entertain the governor's executive actions. And so we can override vetoes, or we can accept or reject amendments. And so in a scenario of a veto, I don't think we probably have enough votes to override a veto because the margins are too thin. But if he wants to amend something and we reject it, the bill will go back to them, rejecting his amendment, and he has the opportunity to veto that. So he can still do that. So he does have some power going forward. A lot of times, though, the amendments that they make, I just got a phone call from the governor's office today about a technical amendment to one of my bills. So it gives it, the 46-day session is very short. Sometimes you miss things. And so this whole process allows, as the Constitution allows, the governor to take a look at things, hear from the public, and maybe make some improvements to the bill. Of course, that's always in the eye of the beholder. And then I'll talk about the federal workforce and funding reduction. So that's going to be our game plan going forward. Okay, so here's some really positive news. I think Virginia is showing that we are a bright spot in our country, making some progress on what we can do. A little nice thing about sort of constitutional study here is that we don't have to send our constitutional amendments to the governor. They pass the legislature. They have to pass twice. There has to be an intervening election, and then they go directly to the voters. I got to tell you, folks, in Virginia, this obviously is the big point. The General Assembly has a tremendous amount of power. We're the ones who write our Constitution. We give the powers to all the branches of government. No surprise, the General Assembly is very strong and very powerful. So 3 constitutional amendments that have passed protect a person's right to reproductive freedom. That includes contraceptives, expands voting rights for formerly incarcerated individuals. Virginia is one of the only states in the country that you don't get those voting rights automatically restored. And so we're changing that. And we're repealing the same-sex marriage ban. Those of you that are familiar, obviously, the marriage can a man and a woman, or a woman and a man and a man, or same sex, can be married in Virginia, not because of Virginia law, not because of Virginia's Constitution, but because of what the Supreme Court ruled in Obergefell several years ago. The problem with that is that if someone brings another challenge to that decision that goes before the United States Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court could overturn Obergefell, and in that case, we are left with our constitutional amendment, which is the Marshall-Newman Amendment, which defines marriage between one man and one woman. And that's what we would fall back on. So we can't allow that to happen. So the constitutional amendment that just passed would repeal same-sex marriage. So if all goes to plan, you will see all 3 of these constitutional amendments on your ballot in November of 2026. Not 2025, unfortunately, in 2026. But we've got to win an election in November here in Virginia in order to make sure that happens. And if we do that, it will be on your ballot in 2026. All right, so let me give you some budget highlights, some things that we put in. We recognize that people are hurting in Virginia. Inflation is high. It's getting higher. And I think we all know the cause of that. It could even get higher given the tariffs that are going into effect. And so we devoted $1.1 billion to immediate tax relief. The governor had proposed doing car tax reduction. Well, I want you to know about the car tax. It only applies to people $50,000 and below in income. A lot of people in Arlington don't drive cars. And so, or they don't pay a car tax. Maybe their car is a little bit older and it's exempted from it. So we wanted to make sure that people get that immediate relief that's directly targeted towards them. And so what we're doing is a one-time rebate of $200. It's going to be coming in the mail October 15th of this year. If we went the governor's way, the car tax, you wouldn't receive that until 2026. So we're doing it this year, so right away, $200 for individuals and $400 for joint filers will be sent to people October the 15th. Now, this all assumes that the governor is going to sign the budget. I think he will. It'd be hard for him to veto something like that. That's immediate tax relief. And then we permanently reduce tax liability for Virginia. We adjust the standard deduction permanently to $8,750 for individuals and $17,500 for joint filers. We have done that for the last 2 years, but it was temporary. This makes it permanent, and this is going to be permanently adjusting for the cost of inflation. We absolutely can afford to do it because our economy in Virginia has been quite good. And well, right about, we have to support people. We have to support families, low-income families. This goes to everybody, but it will help everyone in order to do that. And so Virginia has enjoyed, even I know what you're asking about the federal employee. We don't know the answer to that question. We do have a rainy day fund. We set aside budget money in the case to help support our federal workers. But we should be supporting everyone, and this will support every family. A lot of two-person households that are working in homes, they will benefit from this, especially at a time when they need it the most. It absolutely does, and we also have a provision that I didn't mention it, is that it expands the earned income tax credit that is directly for low-income people. So we think that what our approach in supporting all Virginians, everyone will be touched by these items here, and that's a very good point, Paul. All right, so on education, we provided $780 million to support our public schools. We love our public schools, June. We love our teachers even more. This is all about our students. We're putting real money in for school construction, 150 million, so it's 300 million over the biennium to help schools afford school construction. $1,000 bonus in June for teachers and support personnel with no local match required. You know, a lot of times we put raises in and we'll require the locality because they have more ability to meet that. These $1,000 bonus checks will go out in June, and there'll be no match automatically in there. And I hear this at the doors. I also have kids that are getting ready to go to college. I have one in college, two that are getting ready to go. We're talking about the affordability of our Virginia public schools to keep tuition low, and so we're helping support that as well too. Healthcare, more money put in healthcare for CSPs, for mental health, fully fund Marcus Alert, substance abuse disorders, intellectual disabilities. We want to make sure that people, when they're in crisis, they need the support. And there's a lot of people that are in crisis. A lot of people, their blood pressure is getting higher because of the executive orders that are going out on a daily basis. People are scared. We want to make sure that there's mental health support and personnel. So we're putting more funding towards those up. Community services boards. And the community services boards are active in every single community in Virginia, and they oversee mental health, substance abuse, and intellectual disabilities. Some real money that we're putting in the housing, $20 million in direct rental assistance for families in Northern Virginia. We probably might have to up this when we go back into special session, particularly if people are going to be impacted by layoffs. $15 million for first-time home buyers to receive a $10,000 grant. I know $10,000 doesn't go very far in Arlington and Northern Virginia, but this is really helpful in a lot of part of our state. We're going to re-examine this thing when we have a new governor, new legislature come in, and hopefully expand and grow this. But this is the first time that we've ever done something like this, and I think it'll benefit a lot of different people. So we want to help support that. Okay, so the next part of my slide deck, I'm going to go into our bills that we're sending to the governor. He will more than likely veto these bills. So this should come as no surprise. I don't want you to be too disappointed. He's vetoed these bills in the past. We've been sent legislation to increase the minimum wage. Right now it's $12.41. That's a law we passed back in 2020, but we wanted to get it on a track so eventually it's up to $15 an hour, and so we do that $15 in 2027. Like I said, the governor's likely to veto it, but right now it sits at $12.41 an hour, and we're going to gradually send it up. Gun safety. Here's another area that the governor will gladly, happily, unfortunately for the rest of us, will veto a number of different bills. Last session, he vetoed over 30 gun safety bills. He's really bought and paid for by the NRA. We sent him an assault weapons ban. We sent him a bill. It's a common sense bill. It's crazy. Safe storage. If you have kids in your home, or you have someone that should not have access, maybe they're mentally ill, they should not have access, you need to lock them up. That's what the law says, the bill that he sent to the governor. He'll veto lock the guns up. He will veto that bill. Something common, a 5-day waiting period to conduct a background check. Sometimes the background checks can take longer than the mandated 3 days, and we want to expand it to 5 days. Just a common sense, not to give someone a gun who you don't know their full background. And close the boyfriend loophole. This true story, I talk about boyfriend loophole is what we colloquially call something. You know, right now on domestic partners, if there is a domestic disturbance and you have guns in the home, the court can order those guns be removed from that individual. Maybe they have a protective order against them. It doesn't include boyfriends. And someone asked me, does it include girlfriends? Well, it does include girlfriends too, but it's colloquially called a boyfriend because let's face it, it's usually the boys and the problem boys. So we call it the boyfriend loophole. And so that has been sent to the governor. And again, he will veto that. He talks a big game about being pro-victim, but he's not pro-victim. He's not pro-victim at all. And so he would rather allow you to keep your guns than it is to protect a domestic situation. And you watch. I'm not Nostradamus or anything like that. I predict he will veto this bill. Other things that he will likely veto, we did create a legal retail market for marijuana sales. Will be starting in May of 2026. He'll veto that bill. As you know, we're sort of in a little different situation when it comes to marijuana. Possession of marijuana is legal in Virginia. Small amounts, I want to say it's like 4 ounces of marijuana is legal. Possession of it, maybe it's 3 ounces. And you can grow, I think, 3 or 4 plants in your backyard if you want to, legally. But you can't buy it. You possess it, legal. Can't buy it, illegal. And so he doesn't want anything at all. He doesn't want any retail. But that's the concept. It wouldn't be through ABC, but it would be a similar type thing because you don't see liquor stores all over. ABC stores are all over. There's very few. You'd have even fewer of these places where you could buy marijuana, but it would be taxed and it would be regular. Yes,
Is it illegal to say buy cannabis in Maryland and bring it into Virginia? If it's all small.
It's illegal to buy it. It's legal to buy in DC. I don't know if Maryland has retail items, but DC does. So you could go into DC and buy it. Bringing it over, once you bring it over, you bought it in DC legally.
Yeah.
You bring it over. I don't know how you got it, man.
It's legal here.
It's legal. The possession is. So
But the act of bringing it into the state.
that's not open because it's the same as possession.
Yeah.
That's possession.
Yeah.
It probably because of the Schedule 1 drug, it's still considered a Schedule 1 drug. And it'll be very interesting whether Trump's DOJ starts enforcing that. I know Biden's did not. And so it will be interesting. He's got a lot of things on his plate right now. The question is whether they start going into some of these states and start roughing some people up. They don't have a lot of that. They're trying to get rid of stuff. I don't know if they have enough law enforcement inspectors to do that, but that's something we should always keep an eye on as well, too. Right to birth control establishes a fundamental right to obtain contraceptives and engage in contraception. You may think this is laughable, but sending that bill, which I think that everyone agrees is the law already, making it very clear in our Virginia code that it is, he'll veto this bill.
I think that's on the Project 2025.
Yeah.
That old 1800s law.
Yeah. Right. Paid sick leave for private, state, and local governments. I mean, no one expects to get sick. Some people get sick for different reasons. Maybe they have to take care of a family member, a mom or a dad or son or daughter, paid sick leave. But
state and local governments pay
yeah,
employment insurance,
yeah, that's right.
but they don't pay citizens.
Right. They don't have to have it. Some jurisdictions will allow it, but it's not required. We lift the ban on collective bargaining. June, this is back to you, on public employees and allow them to negotiate. So we expand our current definition that we have for local government, for public employees, we expand it to all public. So government will be done. Yes, and it would still be an option. It would still be an option. We're just broadening it of who would be included in collective bargaining. All right, that's me. That's all the bills I introduced, 15 bills. I've had, in the last two, because I'm running for re-election, I have to come up with these statistics. I didn't think about it. I sent 42 bills in the last 2 years to the governor. 42. And there's 12 more right there that I sent to the governor. I won't go through all these bills. You can ask me a question if you want to. There's one bill pertaining to Arlington government I'm trying to update. I'm glad to answer any questions. We talked about that at our table. 2 budget amendments that I sent that are in the budget that will directly impact Arlington. The Arlington Historical Society is trying to refurbish the old Hume School, which is their museum. And I got $50,000 for them to preserve and protect that for the future. And the other one is $100,000 I got for mental health services. Someone has dementia, has to leave their nursing home and go to the hospital. I want to make sure that they have a place to come back to. And $100,000 will help triage that and let them keep their bed and stay in their community. Steve?
Any progress on the solitary confinement?
Well, no, not really. We passed a law that was kind of weak a couple of years ago. Yeah. And we'll have to come back next year with a new governor. Yeah. On solitary confinement. And so we'll do some kind of stuff. Well, no. In the second year, it's 15. You're right. But in the first year of the buy-in, it's unlimited. So we can do as many as we want to. So, what? 44 million for what? Oh, it's in the budget. That's in the budget. Well, it's additional. So we passed a 2-year budget last year. So there's billions that we include towards mental health for the 2 year. This is an additional on top of that next year 44 million. So it's more. Yep. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about federal employees. We've set up in Virginia. I've said this many times. I just want to make sure everyone knows. We can't boil the ocean with this. Everyone can't do everything. I don't have the authority to stop Trump from doing these things or Elon Musk, but our federal government or our Congress does, and trying to get some Republican support to do that. There's a litigation route as well too that is shown to be effective. That will be a pathway to stop some of these things. The local government is trying to do some things. At the state level, we've set up a Virginia House Emergency Committee that's going to be studying the impacts of this. We will likely go back into special session to deal with this on this year. We have some rainy day funds budget that we can put revenue in to help these workers mitigate the damage that's being done. Also, if there's going to be federal cuts like to Medicaid, for example, or to education, we're going to have to backfill that to make sure that our schools and people who rely on these services are going to get continued access to those services.
Who can call a special session?
In this case, we're still in special session. So the governor certainly can, but because we're in special session, the Speaker of the House and the head of the Senate Rules Committee, Senate Pro Tem rather, can call a special session.
So you can do that like anytime?
Anytime. We're technically still in special session. The Speaker can give us 24, 48 hours notice and call us back in. They'll probably give us more notice than that. But this group is meeting, and they're going to be coming to Arlington early April to hear from workers. We want to hear what things can we do. One of the things that we're going to put before them is say, can we create a faster pathway to certified teachers? We have a serious teacher issue, shortage. Can we funnel some people that are interested back into our schools throughout the entire state? That's a possibility. Using some of our funds to say to current employers, if you hire a position to a furloughed, fired, a federal employee, that there's a tax incentive, there's a tax benefit for you. So you might be a company thinking to expand. Well, this is a really good opportunity to do that and do that right now because you can take advantage of a tax credit. So those are the kinds of things. Oh, I mentioned uninsurance as well too. We pay about $326 a week for uninsured claims. It doesn't last. I want to say it's like 10 weeks. It might be a little bit longer. We're one of the worst in the country when it comes to unemployment insurance and benefits. We need to increase that. And this committee can take a look at expanding that to help people, give them real assistance while they look for another job.
Okay, but if I'm a federal employee, the federal government doesn't pay into the Virginia Unemployment Insurance Fund or the Workers' Comp.
They would be eligible. No, they would be eligible. I think that they do. There's money there for them. Whether or not they pay into the fund, I can't tell you. But I think that I know that there's money in there, and that we will process those funds, and that my office can help with those processing those funds. Yeah, they are eligible. The only people that would one of the eligibilities also is that you were let go for reasons not your own. So if you just leave on your own, you're not eligible. But you have to be furloughed or you have to be fired.
Okay, good.
But otherwise, you are eligible.
If for example, you're a probation employee and you get an email from us saying that you're fired from out,
You are eligible. You are eligible. Absolutely eligible. That exact question came up in the hearing. You are eligible for these benefits. Here's a couple of statistics I just want to show you of how much we rely on the federal government. 1/3 of our entire state spending comes from the government. A lot of it's Medicaid. We say that $14.6 billion that we get. Schools, I think I said $1.5 billion. It's $2.5 billion. And then I just launched some resources on my website. It also allows you to share your story as well too. So I want to hear personal stories. That's things that we can share with this committee to let them know about the real impacts that's happening to families out there. And that's it. I'll go ahead and stop there.
you're willing to take some questions.
I'm happy to. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, one question I have is with a real serious plans to cancel, for example, Virginia State University and Virginia Tech are both land-grant institutions against other businesses to the USDA budget.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's being destined.
Yeah.
And they're already spending away on these things.
I mean, this committee will take a look at that. I mean, it's not going to be one for one because we don't have a third. We look at a third of our budget. We rely on federal. It's not going to be one on one, but we're going to have to prioritize as best we can, and we're going to have to look at services that we can do to help to support people in need. Well, we'll see. If that's to be determined how much. I have to believe that Medicaid favors and supports across the country a lot of people, Republicans and Democrats. I have to believe that there are at least 2 or 3 votes in the entire House of Representatives that could flip this over. You know, Bernie Sanders is doing something very smart. He's targeted 15 vulnerable Republicans, and he's doing town halls in their districts. That's how you're going to get them to flip, is that they have thousands of people in their district coming to them and saying to them, I'm not going to vote for you if you approve a budget that hurts our farmers, our children, our sick, and our needy, our most vulnerable populations. That's what we need in order to flip, and that's what you're going to see happen. And we might shut down the government. Yeah, I'll get you a second. We might shut down the government for this very reason right now. Karen?
Is legal.
Litigation that we're taking. Lawsuits. We know. I think there are multiple different agencies, but it always has to adopt the president's constitutional power. Belongs to the president, belongs to the Congress. And so they're in the budget is going to be the first test of whether or not they can even get a budget through that makes the those cuts that are being proposed. That should not be, but on the other hand, if Congress supports anything, that is part of our Constitution, that Constitution. And so the president, in my opinion, does not have authority to make these cuts. Absolutely. We're now joined with 11 other Asian research universities. I don't think I have a short of you. I think we all. I think every community is vulnerable.
Areas or up to 5 number of areas. So there's a key speculation that we will be high or terribly on, not school. What's my question? Works with James in Arlington, he's okay. Like that can be targeted, but Arlington is really good about standing up for that's true. Or whatever you is Arlington protected because
I mean, ICE is part of the federal government, and so if ICE wants to come in here, there's not a lot we can do about it. The schools, interestingly enough, are making very clear that ICE cannot come in without Arlington police with them, or they have to. Yeah. Yeah.
education. If someone shows up for warrant, whoever the legal counsel for APS to come back to the warrant. And we just go back to school state resolutions. I just want.
Yeah. So far, I think I don't know if any community raised a school.
There was one in our neighborhood, but not at the school.
We got to stay on top of that. We got to stay on top. And back to Shannon and Taylor's, we got to have an attorney general that will also join in these laws. Well, too. That's what we don't have. That's why it's really important that we elect Democrats attorney general. Absolutely, I totally agree. Totally agree. So.
They will change their behaviors if they feel that their funding and we obviously want all of the nonprofit health institutions and so on to continue very aggressive in serving the needs of that human nature tearing off and coming to fail next.
Obey it is.
Yeah, so the chilling effect is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can give an example of the due process. Someone that's afraid that they're going to cut off moving day, for example. I think that there are other people that wouldn't have seen me that are really challenged. Other than hospitals and but the individual who's denied service. What I'm saying
Trouble is that it takes sometimes. Yeah, you go
and I think that that is a issue that the Trump administration has. Absolutely. But at the ballot box, we certainly do have our ability as advocates to agitate, right? I mean, that's what Yopa does. That's what we do as, I mean, I think it's our constitutional right to reelect our government. And I hope a lot of that's happened to see it in town hall meetings. I had a town hall meeting, other legislators, I think some of the Republicans are hiding, for obvious reasons. But that's what we have to do, is we have to send a message that that's not to be tolerated. And that message has to go out to the world. Right, we have an election here in Virginia, we can make that case.
because that's the challenge to us as leaders. A lot of people, when we feel inundated with sorts of bad things happening to them, curl up in the fields.
I know.
And it just,
We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. No. We're not going to do it. We're definitely going to save. That's for sure. That's what I'm at control of. Absolutely going to save.
So what do you
Well, we've got the Virginia House of Delegates Committee, and we're going to go back in special session. When we do, we can start seeing some report that we can give. And like I said, everyone has a one play. Whether it's litigation route, whether it's congressional route, whether it's a local government, state government, or just individuals like you, there's ways that we can express ourselves and make very clear that we're going to fight about it. And that's what we're doing.
I mean, it's
Well, at the state level, show up. You need to press fire, press one, press T. Those are things that you can do to help support those efforts. Sometimes, if we start seeing people that are going to need support and do things, we need to help support them financially and help one of them to do. So there's a lot of things that we can do.
You're appreciating that, apparently it's good for them to hear.
well, it's more than
I think what Bernie Sanders is doing at the national levels, I think we need to have it does the same thing, state level. Goes to dozens, vulnerable, which are up for the elections, go to their business. And it's just, I understand. But now we do think someone with that kind of stature to go in there and get people to target them and get them to speak about it. I don't know if to do it. Well, he's trying. Yeah, she's probably kind of doing some of that already. But I think targeting those like a dozen multiple districts is the districts that Kamala Harris won last year. So they're easy districts that we can pick up. Go in there and give them a pay attention because these federal cuts, they don't discriminate whether Republican or Democrat. They make a sledgehammer. But they need to be guided. I just see it. My best person statewide would have the cachet. 10 games. 726. Yeah. One of the things I'm very interested in on top of it. Yeah.
it's needed, it's a way to convey prestige within a group So, for example, we could let all parents and alumni of students at the state university know what's being cut from the land they came up with shows. Should let the farmers know what's being cut from the taxes.
Yeah.
Should let absolutely constituent who buy the move.
Yeah.
We lived in the health effort of the European school at X million dollars.
Yeah.
That is the Democrats supporting.
No, but we are. We get a lot of the funding, and actually most of federal funding goes towards these rural areas that they rely on. As a large, for many a big number to us, but to them, it's a big percentage of the income. No, take Medicaid, rural-based farm programs, and stuff like that, specifically targeted towards rural areas.
Well, I mean, we're looking at how Medicaid special ed support most. Yeah, we do a fairly good job. I've been in Fairfax, but a lot of the state, they barely get anything back, or really better than that. So you're not, remember that Jamie Clark sit back and let them things up. Lead more and active.
Absolutely not.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be there. Like you said,
We absolutely should be going to should. I'm going to say that's like a little bit. I mean, that's already happening. See that already happening?
I'll let them hire for more scheme.
You're seeing a lot of that, especially these federal cuts. Federal cuts, you know, the Andy Rose, I don't care, or Virginia, a lot of Republicans impacted by, and it wasn't a tractor, so also.
Just following no data collection, which is buggy based. Not a J,
Yeah.
ignorance.
So, a lot of good ideas here. I have on my website, to share your story, go to my website, there's resources in there for federal employees that need support, that are posted, updated constantly, and people can share their story, their ideas, things that I can feed, that I can proactively feed with this House Emergency Committee. As I mentioned, they are coming to this area. It's going to be at the Amazon HQ. I think that's still in our. Yeah, Western. That's where they're looking to hold their meeting.